Welcome to the Beardsmen. I am here with the Beardsmen, a.k.a. Spencer and Anthony, a.k.a. the founders of Live Bearded, a.k.a. Millennials,
Do you have any others that
What
you'd
else?
like to go
Keep
with?
it going.
a.k.a. The real estate broker and the basketball player. I'll let
back.
you decide which one you think is what.
What's up, guys? My name is Spence.
I'm Anthony.
AKA the tan and the pale. There we go. I had another one.
And as JR said, I've never had that many AKAs before.
Wow, quite
but
the intro.
I guess we are the crazy mofos that started Live Bearded. And we started this podcast because as our our favorite thing to do here as the owners of Live Bearded over the last 7 years we've been doing this is talking to our customers. Guys come into the office every day. We love chopping it up, hearing their stories. A guy came by yesterday, Bradley Ivers.
Yeah,
Shout out
amazing.
to you if you hear this, brother.
Thanks for coming
He
by, bro.
literally was one of our first customers in 2016. He brought his wife in for their 5-year anniversary. He's out here from West Virginia. Like being able to meet those guys and connect with those people, the customers of ours over the years has
Makes
been
it so special.
been the favorite part
Yeah.
that I have. And so we started this show to carry the conversation out to everyone that can't maybe come in and meet us in person or that we don't have an opportunity to connect with. So this is a show to answer your questions and really talk about the experience of being a man in the world today.
Yeah, guys, we're passionate about a lot of things, but one of the biggest things we're passionate about is encouraging men to be the best versions of themselves. That's why we put this podcast together.
I thought you were going to say beards.
Well,
For a second.
Well, that's
Part
important.
of being a good man
Yeah,
is having
having a great beard, and we can help you with that too.
yeah. And having less of a beard doesn't make you less of a man.
But not having one.
Just might.
All right, guys, the format of this podcast is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It's an Ask Us Anything. Literally, there's nothing that we won't talk about, whether it's personal development, mindset, business, family, fitness, health,
Sex,
wellness.
drugs, and rock and roll.
Literally, ask a question, and we're going to give you our
Yeah.
our opinion about it.
Yeah.
If they have
Pokemon,
questions-
Hello Kitty. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
if they
yeah.
have-
We
if
might
they-
not know anything about these categories, but we'll talk about
What
it.
is Pokemon?
Jeremy?
Yeah. If they want to ask us questions, you can submit your questions by emailing us at ask@livebearded.com, or you can comment your questions in the video below if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, so don't hold back. And as JR said, we'll talk, mock, but not walk away from the question.
How you guys doing this morning?
Yo,
Yeah, that's how you feel it.
I'm
feel
feeling
it.
that good right now. No, I'm great, man. Fired up. Again, like I said, it was great meeting Bradley yesterday,
Yeah.
and we're 2 weeks away from Black Friday, which
Countdown's
at
real.
Live Bearded is it's the biggest day of the year. It's a Super Bowl, so all hands on deck, working our asses off. But no, man, I'm excited. I feel good. I just finally officially booked all of my stuff for Australia. So
let's
I'm going to Australia for 2 weeks. I've
All
got
right.
a bucket list trip planned. I've got
Give
some
us
amazing
the high-level
shit.
itinerary. You going?
Yeah.
Are
East
you
Coast,
hitting
West
up Lord of the
Coast?
Rings locations?
I think that's in New Zealand.
That
It
could be both. It's definitely New Zealand.
adjacent.
It's
It could be
definitely New
both.
Zealand.
It's close, yeah. So LA to Sydney.
okay.
I land at like 6 a.m.
Yep.
I immediately jump on another flight and I fly to this place called Hamilton Island,
Okay.
which is where the Great Barrier Reef access point is. So I got Great Barrier Reef, Whitsunday Islands. I'm doing a helicopter tour of the Whitsundays and the
Sick.
Great Barrier.
Yep.
And they've built like this landing spot, like this little boat that has a helipad that is just docked at the Great Barrier Reef. So you can literally helicopter out to it, land
on the
it,
boat?
land on the boat.
Okay.
And then you have like 90
James
minutes.
Bond shit, you know?
Yeah.
You have like 90 minutes to
Skydive.
go snorkeling, diving, and to just hang out.
Yeah.
So I was looking for different, like really cool excursions that I could do.
Yep.
I really wanted to do a seaplane. They have like the freaking planes that land on the water,
Yep.
and they'll take you out to different spots on the reef, on the Great Barrier Reef, and they'll stop and like you can get out and scuba dive and whatnot. But I was very disappointed to find out that they don't offer it past COVID. They said, oh, up until COVID, we had to blah, 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 change some
COVID
bullshit.
ruined so many
Yeah.
things.
So
Much.
so I was sad, but they're like, we got this other thing, and basically I can only land in the one spot. Obviously, it's a fucking helicopter, but it's super fucking cool. I
Sick.
got that. I'm gonna stay there for 5 days. It's like a small island, only golf carts on the island.
Oh, I love it.
So I got a fucking. They call them buggies. I don't
Got
know
a little
why.
buggy?
They got every Airbnb listing was like complimentary buggy, complimentary buggy. I'm like,
You're like,
what
what the fuck is a buggy?
It's actually a cart that's pulled by a donkey. They make it seem like there's a motor on it, but it's really just a donkey. Like,
yeah, yeah. You know the most important part about being in a cart pulled by a donkey?
what?
to duck the shit that comes at you.
That's some projectile feces.
But no,
just-
so
just-
that's I'm there for
Violent.
5 days, and then I did some research and heard about this place called Noosa, which is like on the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast.
Okay.
Heard it's amazing, so I'm staying there for 7 days. Going to be there over Christmas. During the Christmas holiday, I figured I didn't want to travel too much, so I'm staying there for a week, and then hitting Sydney for a few days, and then jumping on a jet plane and flying back.
There we go.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
You wanted to go for a while.
You know,
I mean, it's been on the list for a while, I feel like.
it's really funny, man. I feel like this comes full circle because when I first started my business in 2011, right, I did some local travel. I went to Costa Rica, but then I have this vivid conversation that I remember with one of my buddies, Kevin. It was like January 2012. I was literally staying at your fucking house in Arcadia, and Kevin was in town, so we were grabbing lunch, and he's like, "Hey, man, where are you going to next?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. Like, I'm not sure where I want to go." And he's like, "You should go someplace that you've never been, someplace across the world, some places that pushes you outside of your comfort zone." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great."
Siberia.
And he's like, "Is there any place that you've wanted to go?" And I was like, "I've always wanted to go to Australia and Thailand." And he goes, "You should go to Thailand because they don't speak the language." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I went home, literally sitting at your table at fucking the house in Arcadia, and I bought a one-way ticket to Thailand.
And that's when he landed in Samui?
And that's when I went to Samui for the first
Wow, the
time.
very first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Why one way?
Because I didn't know when I was coming back.
Because he could. Because he
Because I
could.
could, man.
I wanted to make it really hard for myself. I didn't want to worry about the return ticket.
No, it was great. And so that was literally like the biggest first international trip I ever took in 2012. Fast forward 11 years, and I'm going to the other place on my
The other
list, which
option.
was Australia.
Yeah,
So,
super
but
cool.
in between there, you know, like 40 countries and all the different crazy shenanigans along the way, it's been pretty exciting. So that's my biggest update for the week.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not like I have a kid coming or
Yeah.
a fucking 1-year wedding anniversary or anything like that
Yeah.
coming up.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
I was building a nursery all weekend. You know? It's like, my weekends now consist of the crib's built. Now we're like getting all prepped, and I can't wait, man. It's a lot of it's a different use of time on the weekends to go through like the honeydew list and get all the things prepped and ready. But it is coming fast. We got a baby boy coming January 3rd. So yeah, I mean, my big updates are that's
Dang,
about as
that
big
is
of an
fast.
update as you
Yeah.
could possibly have.
I feel like there's a very big lesson in here for all the brothers listening. Because you and I literally just talked about the very first like big trip I booked was
Yeah.
from your living room or from your kitchen table.
Yeah.
Right. And then since then we've went on trips all around the world together. You and I moved to Thailand together. We moved to Maui together. We moved to Colorado together as we were building Live Bearded.
Yep.
Right. And so for like a period of our life when we were first friends, we were doing very different things, but we were homies. Then for a period of our life, we were literally doing the exact same thing, building the same
Yep.
company. Right. And now, like, our lives are kind of going in very different directions. One day I hope to be married and have a kid, but like you're there, right?
Yeah.
And so here I am talking about going to Australia and doing this crazy bucket list trip, right? And you're like building cribs and
Doing
like
a house remodel. and-
having a 1-year anniversary coming up
Yeah.
in a few days. And it's like, what's really cool about that is our friendships, our journeys, our experiences, the people that we have, like they're going to go in very different directions at times. But as long as we have the same values that we live our life by, we're always, even though like our directions might be different, our growth is going to be similar, or we're still going to have the ability to grow together, even though we're growing in different directions, if that makes sense. And I think, you know, it's talked a lot about, they say the average man doesn't feel like he has one best friend because you get married, you have kids, you're getting pulled in different directions, you got to earn your income, you don't have time for friends anymore, boom, 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 all these things happen. And then you start to feel isolated or lonely or disconnected. And I think that we can stay connected, we just have to work at it, right? And we have to understand that that's also part of life, and there'll be seasons that we're doing the honeydew list, or the seasons that we're traveling, or the seasons that we're raising kids or building business. I think oftentimes the biggest problem we have is we think we shouldn't have them, but just acknowledging the season that we're in, I think is a really powerful lesson. And it just, as you were talking about your journey and I just got done talking about mine, I was like, gosh, we could not be going in like different directions right now, but like there's so much beauty in that. And there's
Well,
so
it's
much
only a
growth
season
in
of
that.
time, right? Like you're in this season now, but to your point, you said you hope that it's not in this season forever. You find your partner, you can start a family, potential, whatever. And so long as friends are growing together, they come back and overlap again, right? Because I am just experiencing this now with the baby coming and the house remodel and being more grounded now than I've ever been. And I have friends like Jason who have gone literally since second grade, and he's like one of my closest friends. We weren't super close we weren't in terms of proximity and time because I was traveling more and gone, and he was doing the family thing, and so we weren't sharing that chapter together. Now there's more overlap there. So the seasons come, they go, they change as long as you keep in contact, which is one of the questions we had. It's harder to stay in contact with friends and people as
Yeah.
life gets busy, right?
Yeah.
But
Is
this
that
takes a little more effort.
Good segue into the
Yeah, I
first
mean, I don't know if
question?
we're gonna touch on that, but we got a few questions, so I think let's team
Yeah.
up, GR.
Yeah, we looked it up earlier. One of the questions, like you said, it comes from Stu.
What's up, Stu?
What's up, Stu?
Stu
Do
said,
you
Stu.
think that's STU or STEW?
STU for sure, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
hope so. You
Wait,
can't trust a
who
Stu.
knows? People are getting weird with names. Speaking of getting names, naming
Oh.
a baby is fucking hard. Like, I don't know that Stu's on our list. No offense, Stu. It's a great name, but it's hard, you know? It's like
well, his
sometimes-
real name's Stu Works.
Okay, Stu,
Oh,
we're
okay,
going for
okay,
Stu. So,
okay,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Anyways, it's a lot of pressure. People are getting weird with names out there these
Yeah.
days. But Stu, you got a great name. What does Stu have to say?
Yeah. Stu's question is, hey, Beardsman, I've been struggling to find a work-life balance lately. What tips do you have for managing career ambitions while still being present for family and personal life?
That is a good question I'm trying to figure out.
Maybe that's part of the answer.
I think it's part of, yeah, for sure. I think it changes different seasons of life that you're in. I think you're in a building stage when you're younger, single, you don't have a lot of commitments to family where you can go all in on business. I think naturally as priorities change, like I'm entering into this life now with my now wife, with a baby coming where I want to have all the drive of the business, but also still want to be a very intentional and present husband first and father second. And it gets a lot harder to do. My one thing that I keep going back to is just being absolutely relentless with how you spend your time, right? Because we all have the same amount of time in the day, but if I'm trying to drive the business and be fully in what we're building here with Live Bearded, when I get home, I still want to be fully in with my wife and just be that much more intentional and present with my time. Because I think if you're intentional with your time, you can spend less amount of time but get more done, right? If you're not distracted in business, you put your head down for 60 or 90 minutes, you can accomplish 3 or 4 hours worth of work if you're having side conversations or distractions. And so for me, it's just, I've been trying to be intentional about how I'm spending my time and just being ruthless with the efficiencies.
Yeah.
For example, like a little thing that's helped with my my relationship with my wife is when I get home, 6:30, 6:45, we have dinner. The phone's down, do not disturb. I am 100% present at dinner for 60 minutes. We chat, we go deep, we go on a walk. So for about 90 minutes in the evening, we're just one-on-one time. And there's no thoughts of business. There's no thoughts of anything else. You can't reach me because my phone's literally just away. And I'm not looking at anything. I'm not checking emails. I'm not working on anything. Because when you try to do both, I feel like I've found that then you're losing on both sides. I'm not really fully present with my wife. I'm not really doing high quality work because it's half in, half out. And so a little trick that I've implemented that's had huge success for me is just carving out that time of intentionality and then not being distracted or trying to be in 2 places at once.
Yeah. I think all that's great advice. I've thought about this a lot, and I think I've come to the conclusion that's a little bit controversial, but I don't think balance exists. I think it's bullshit. And I don't know, if you have a scale that's balanced, it typically says 0. And I don't think anybody wants a life of zeros, right? Like, for me, exactly to what you said, it's about carving out or putting parameters around things that are must-haves and then being ruthless with the discipline to do that or to follow through. So I think, anybody who's accomplished anything great, they didn't have any, quote, balance. Everything was skewed in one way. So if you think of balance as like 100%, right? Of like 100% over here, 100% over here, like equal weighted, right? I don't think anything will ever be equal weighted in our lives. Like, I think the areas that we want to improve the most on have to get disproportionate energy and attention.
And that could be your business. That could be your health and wellness. That could be your relationship, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be business or money or drive. Like it
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
but depending on what you're trying to optimize for, right?
Yeah, and I guess, you could still use the word balance if you want, because it's so, like that's the vernacular, that's the language that everybody uses. But like if you want to build a great career, you're probably going to have to spend 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day building that skill set. Okay. So that is just automatically gone. If you're okay, we're going to sleep 6 hours a day, right? So now you got 18 hours left. Okay. You probably got 4 hours worth of miscellaneous bullshit in there from like eating, driving, doing different stuff, right?
Yep.
So that cuts you down to 14. And now, you got 14 hours, let's say, the average person, of allotted time. Okay. How do you want to invest that time? Do you want to, you're very intentional with investing, a few hours every night uninterrupted with your wife, and that helps build the foundation of your relationship. Amazing, right? I don't know that you could have the same, I don't think you could have, if you have 12 hours, 4 hours with your wife, 4 hours with your health and fitness, 4 hours with your job, and 4 hours over here, right? And that's like conceptually, I think that's what people think about when they hear balance. That's how I think about it. Or I'm going to spend a third of my time here, a third of my time here, and a third of my time here.
Yeah, when you break it down like that, I do agree because I think it's unrealistic to devote that many hours. And to me, when I think of balance, I don't think it has to be a 1-to-1 of 4 hours here, 4 hours there. But that's where the intentionality of how you're spending your time. An hour of focused or 90 minutes of focused, dedicated, deep connection could be way more value than 4 hours of just hanging out watching Netflix, right? And so being intentional with how you're spending your time, that gives you balance, but not 1-to-1 in terms of an hour exchange. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's why I personally, like, the word balance doesn't work for me. I like to use the word integration because I want to integrate my business life with my personal life, with my other aspects, right? And so I want it to be integrated, and then I want to intentionally decide, okay, I'm going to allot X amount of hours to my career. I'm going to allot X amount of time to my health and fitness. I'm going to allocate X amount of time to my relationships. And so I think the only way we ever, quote, get balance in our life is by maybe approaching it more as integration, or saying balance for me is like 2 hours here in my health and fitness a day, 8 hours over here in my job every day, and then 4 hours here with my wife and my kids and whatever. Like, I think the only way you ever get to it, whether you want to call it balance or integration or whatever fucking language you want to call it, it's just being intentional, like you said, for during this time, I'm going to be present here and this is all I'm going to do. And I think that's the only way to get it. And then each individual man has to sit down and determine where
are you investing your time? Because if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And I will say, as I've gotten older, you have to be ruthless with how you're spending your time, because you can't fucking do it all. Not if you really want to be successful in these areas. And so, like, if you want to drive and build a business, like, you're going to have to commit 8, 10, 12 hours into that. But you don't want to lack in your relationship, so you have to find time for that. But that may mean you got to say no to going out to the bars on the weekends with your buddies. Or you may need to say no to sleeping in on Saturdays and Sundays and getting up and having a productive day, right? And so you will have to say no to certain things, but you have to step back and say, what am I really trying to build? And then balance your investment of time into accomplish those things that you're trying to
and get on, like, and communicate that, right? Like, I can't remember who said it, but I was listening to a video and it was an entrepreneur and he was talking about with his wife, and he's like, look, babe,
dude,
this is what I'm fucking creating.
So true.
This is the life that we want to build. This is the life that we want.
This is what it's going to take.
And this is what it's going to take. And so that means I'm going to miss a lot of dinners. That means I'm going to be doing a lot of meetings. That means, like, for this next X period of time, like, it's going to be a lot less time together because we're investing that today. We're sacrificing some time together for the payoff in the future. And so I think, again, it just comes down to you making the decision of what balance looks like to you and redefining how you're going to spend your time, and then discipline and focus and being ruthless with it.
That was really good advice, guys.
You can tell we've thought a lot about this at this stage in our lives. Like,
it sounds like there's been a lot of turmoil to help you guys determine your own personal work-life balances.
How do we get the most juice out of this squeeze? You know?
How we're investing our time. It's a big one. You got to think through it, though, because if you don't, then you get washed up in just the whirlwind of the day. And then you're not getting the output. It's a whole thing.
There's two things. One, you said, I'm going to repeat, which is every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And then another thing I remind myself is, if I don't sacrifice for what I want becomes the sacrifice. And so you just have to make the decision of, like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Do you want to sacrifice what you want tomorrow, or sacrifice what you want tomorrow for today? Like, it's
such an interesting balance, though, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so there's that balance of enjoying the journey and not sacrificing everything today for the potential future tomorrow. It's a difficult fucking dance.
This is a very deep philosophical approach to it. I think Buddha said happiness comes from within. Oh gosh, please don't quote me on it. I'm pretty sure that's right, though. But people should just do what makes them happy. Like you said, saying yes to one thing means saying no to another thing. And short of taking happiness away from other people, just focusing on the things that you want to accomplish will ultimately lead to that happiness. Like you said, you got to invest and choose which ones you're going to balance on.
Well, I don't think we're going to solve all of life's problems here today.
Can't unpack it all, but
ultimately, trial and error.
Stu.
Trial and error.
Hopefully that was helpful, Stu.
You probably got way more than
these
he
fucking
bargained
guys
for.
just went off.
Well, being 100% involved in whatever it is you decide to do, and then just knowing that, like, there isn't a perfect balance, it's always going to shift around. And being so,
Yeah, the integration. of
Sorry,
it.
I tried to
Yeah.
boil it all
Yeah,
down.
no, that's
It's
the recap.
I think I got your thesis.
Boom.
All right. Our next question comes from Reggie. Reggie asked, in today's fast-paced world, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. Can you share some effective strategies for staying mentally resilient and managing stress?
Mink, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I think just keeping this one simple. Like for me, it is understanding what I enjoy doing and then just doing that when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed out. I work out damn near every day because that helps me manage my level of stress and overwhelm. I think just doing hard things makes hard things easier.
Yep.
I literally just saw this thing today and it said, the weights at the gym don't get easier to lift, you just get stronger. And I think that's how overwhelm is. Like you just get stronger at carrying it.
Yep.
So I think that's number one is just like embracing it and growing through it. And then just finding things that you love to do, like whether it's a good movie, spending time with your wife, a motorcycle ride, a workout.
Yep.
I think the only way to manage it. And then also, oftentimes the meaning that we give things determines the experience we have of it. So I think a lot of times we turn, molehills into mountains just because we embellish the importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I try to remind myself as it relates to feeling overwhelmed is like, if it's not going to matter in a day, a week, a month, or a year, then it probably doesn't fucking matter at all. And I probably shouldn't allow this to steal too much of my happiness and peace today.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Yeah. So I would say finding things that you love to do that can help you feel refreshed or just change your pattern.
Yep.
And then managing the relationship you have to the things that are making you feel overwhelmed and putting things in perspective.
Yeah.
One of my favorite authors is Michael Singer, and he wrote this book called The Surrender Experiment. And he has a lecture series where he literally explains the entire creation of the universe. He spends an hour and he's like, there was these gases and they started swirling and then the Big Bang and boom, and then there was stardust throughout the gas. And he goes through this whole thing about like what a fucking white dwarf is and how a black hole is created, and literally an hour of like all this crazy astrological sciencey shit. He's like, if you take a white dwarf, which is like a planet that has been like smashed down into the smallest like possible matter, it like breaks the atoms in together, and you take a teaspoon of it, it weighs like 100,000 tons because the matter is so dense. Right? And he talks about like the stars and the whole things. And at the end of it, he goes, the universe is 13.8 billion years in the making. That thing that's making you stressed out probably doesn't matter. Who do you think?
So good.
Really put it into
Yeah.
perspective. Oh,
All right, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you're
I
right.
get it. I'm nothing.
Yeah.
The universe has been occurring for 13 billion years. Who do you think you are to influence the moment before, the moment after you? It's like, wow, we're all made of stardust, like
Yeah.
legit stardust.
Tiny little speck.
Like, and also 13.8 billion years, and like you're gonna live 100. Like, you're not even a speck
Not
on a
even
fucking
relevant.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're going to send people into an existential crisis right
Yeah,
now.
it's so true. Such,
But
yeah.
it's like the things that are overwhelming you, they probably aren't gonna matter too much tomorrow
Yeah.
or in a month or in a year.
Yeah.
And I think that is the number one way that I've learned how to deal with overwhelm is putting things into perspective. And then I actually reverse the order. It's like I try to put them into perspective first, and then I go do something that I enjoy. Because that like gives me separation from it. And then I go do something that I enjoy,
Yep.
like dominate someone on the basketball court, fucking hit buckets in their face. And then I feel good.
Yeah, I think it's spot on. I think I agree with everything he said, not to be too redundant on it. For me, I think focusing on what you can control and just trying to have faith in the outcome of anything you can't control, that it's going to work out the way that it's intended and not get caught up in the shit that you have literally no control over. But if you can do that, and then for me, it's just, moving the body. If I can move the body, get a sweat, clear my mind, it's amazing how much clearer I can think, how much more energy I have, happiness, joy, just brings energy to my body and clears my mind. So I'd
Yeah.
say get active, get in the gym, get out and hike.
What do you do, JR?
To manage stress,
Overwhelm, yeah. all of it.
overwhelm. I put on blinders and I push through it. So I don't know if that's healthy. It works for me though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, like the weights at gyms don't
500 pounds is
get
500
lighter.
pounds.
Yeah, it doesn't get lighter. It just gets easier for you to lift.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of think of like Kobe when he would practice basketball. Like he talked about how he did twice the amount of work of everyone around him, and that added up over a little bit. Or let's say a basketball player practices 150 days of the year, and they practice 2 hours a day for those. They get 300 hours of practice time. Kobe did double that, so he would be 300 out, or he would be 600 hours when everyone was just 300, and then he did that the next year, and he did the next year.
Compound.
And this compounding interest that built up, it put him years and leagues ahead of everyone in his class and everything. So I mean, I kind of look at it that way. Like, I just push through and I do the really hard things because I know when I come back to it, eventually the blinders are just there, and it's just kind of like this blind focus of like, I can push through this, no problem. I just need to do that.
Yeah. It's interesting, I think two things come to mind. You brought up the Kobe analogy, and it made me think of basketball. And, two things in basketball. I remember we would do practices where the defense would have 6 or 7 players. And the idea was to
And offense had to overcome that.
Yeah.
Oh, that would suck.
And so you literally make it way more difficult on you in practice.
And 5 seems easy.
So then when you go into reality, it was like, and this is a similar concept of what you're talking about, right? It's like, actually, how do you like deal with overwhelm? Well, just like embrace yourself in it so that you grow through it. I remember I used to get Slam magazine, man. I had basketball all over my wall.
Wait, what was Slam magazine?
It was just like a basketball magazine. It was
yeah.
called Slam.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Slam,
Like a Sports
Slam.
Illustrated,
but
just
for
basketball.
basketball.
I got you.
And they had this ad in there for this thing that you would attach onto the hoop, which made the hoop smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so it was like literally the size of the hoop would go from being the normal size to like just an inch bigger than the basketball.
So you have to be spot on.
Yeah. And so I got my mom to buy me one of those. And I just would shoot and shoot and shoot, and I'm freaking 37 years old now. And like, I can touch a basketball and hit most shots just because of the years of repetition of overwhelming or making it more difficult on myself than it actually is in reality. So as much as we want to understand and have a positive relationship with overwhelm and not let it weigh us down, actually embracing it and intentionally overwhelming ourselves is a great way to make us stronger, better, faster, more capable.
When we're living in a time where it's like mental health and wellness, and you want to like almost let off the throttle to take care of your self-care, and not to discredit the value of self-care, but I think we sometimes undervalue the resiliency that we have inside of us to push the limits and go further and go faster. And oftentimes I think I think to that point, it's like if you make it harder on yourself and build up the resiliency, that weight becomes just normal. Playing against 7 guys becomes easier, and you just raise your level of ability to tackle it.
Yeah, I mean, when I started my first business, making $100 decision was like intense. It was stressful, right? And then we had to make we had to make $1,000 decision, and it was like, fuck, dude, $1,000? Like, I don't even have that in my bank account right now. How am I going to do this? And then we make $10,000 decisions, and then with Live Bearded, we make $100,000 decisions, and now we make $1 million decisions, and it's like no big deal.
Yeah.
And like $100 used to stress me the fuck out. I never imagined I would make $1 million decisions. And now we do that every day to some degree. And it only comes by like embracing the overwhelm and getting the overwhelm and working through it. So yes, we want to figure out how to have a healthy relationship with it, but we also want to use it.
Yeah. I think to what you said, adding perspective to the stress and like the grand scheme of things gives it a healthy perspective on it. Like it's healthy dose of stress, healthy dose of reality, and then you can work through it.
Yeah. It's a great question.
Love that. Yeah, solid.
Last question comes from Eli. Eli asked, in a culture that often emphasizes immediate gratification, how can we teach patience and resilience to the younger generations?
Ooh,
Mr.
that's a good one.
Soon-to-be dad.
Dude, so I had this thought recently, actually, about, all right, I got a baby boy coming into the world. And of course, I'm naturally going to want to take care of him and give him what he needs, meet his needs, exceed his needs. But how do you not raise a spoiled little fucker who's just got every little toy, every little thing, and teach some of that delayed gratification, right? And like,
Make him think you're really poor.
But it's so true. I feel like in the world we live in today, with social media, with everything, it's like the easy button, self-gratification. They want it now. Nobody wants to put in the work. And yeah, how do we build that resiliency and instill that into our younger generation? It's been top of mind for me, and it's like borderline stressing me out a little bit, because it's like, I want to raise this kid obviously with standards and values, and I'm confident that we're going to do our best to do that. But you also want to give and provide for them. So that balance has been a thought that's come up in my head more recently.
So what conclusion have you come up with?
I haven't come up with it yet.
Yeah.
This question's
Still
timely because
thinking?
I'm here to answer it. Yeah.
So there was something that my dad did with me back in the day, and he did it to like teach me work. At the time, it just made me like really upset because
Yeah.
it was at the time I was like, this is such a waste of time. This is dumb. So my mom grew up in a small town in like east of Tucson called Wilcox. It's like a ghost town now. There's still people there, but my grandpa had a farm out there, and my dad sent me out there for the summer just to do like the most gruntiest of grunt work
Yeah.
on that farm, and it was awful.
Yeah.
He did it to teach me hard work and
Yeah.
everything, and out there in the sun of Arizona all summer, just like I learned how to drive stick shift from that out there, so that was good, even though no one drives stick shift anymore. But it did teach me this perspective of just like this hard work of just like I said, putting those blinders on and just focusing and doing it through it. Because there was one thing, it was like 300 feet of this concrete ditch that they used to like irrigate farms, and it was like just filled with mud and dirt, and he wanted it gone. So I dug out the dirt through the whole trench and then broke the concrete.
Yeah.
And then we drove this tractor. I'd pick up the chunks of concrete, throw it in the bucket, drive the tractor, dump it in this like dumpster thing, and then come back and just do that for like 300 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I can
was-
relate to that
Ugh.
pretty significantly. When I was growing up, my pops always put me to work, so I had to earn my money, didn't just get an allowance. Had to mow the lawn, of course, do the house chores. But I remember running a tractor and digging out fence posts. I remember picking up trash from construction sites, and he did a phenomenal job of helping me as like a little 10, 11, 12-year-old finding jobs to do. But he would drop me off, come pick me up at the end of the day, and like literally make me go earn the money that I was getting. And that definitely instilled a sense of work ethic in myself. That
Do you remember that feeling though of like after you were to like dig out that fence post, or like was there ever a time when you looked at like this huge daunting task of even landscaping kind of deal? You looked at the completed thing, you're like, damn, I did that whole thing.
Yeah, feel accomplished.
Yeah.
You feel amazing. You feel so accomplished when you
I
get
think
finished
that
with
was-
it. Yeah,
that was
the
the
sense of the
Biggest feeling I remember taking away from
Yeah.
it.
I think belief is a shitty substitute for an experience. What you guys are just talking about right now is experiences that taught you something.
100%.
You know, have you guys ever heard of the marshmallow test?
Oh, is that the
The one
patience?
that,
Yeah,
patience,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, so you can Google it, and there's like videos. It's fucking hilarious to watch, actually. So I highly recommend you just go to YouTube and type in marshmallow test. But the premise is this: they put a young kid, 8, 10 years old, whatever it is. Maybe he's even younger, maybe 6, 8, whatever. But a young kid in a room by himself. There's nothing in the room, and you come in and you say, "Okay, here's a marshmallow, and you can eat this now if you want, or if you wait 10 minutes, I'll come back and I'll bring you 2." And there's like these videos of them, the kids like pick it up, they'll like look at it, they'll like lick it, put it back down. Like some people just fucking mow it down right
Yeah.
away. Like they don't even care, right? And what's really interesting is they've directly linked delayed gratification to achievement. And the longer that you can delay gratification, the greater likelihood of success and achievement in other areas of your life. Which is scary to think about what that means for today. Because
conditioned
today,
people are for instant.
everybody wants instant gratification.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've talked about this before. All of my biggest mistakes, like if we just think about in business or in finance, like all of my biggest financial mistakes have come because I was trying to get instant return, instant gratification, short-term results. Whether it was like a business decision that I made, an investing decision, and then even to some degree in life.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, if I look back at all of the times that I paid a really large dumb tax, I was trying to get immediate results or quick results. So yeah, how do you get away from that? I think the first thing you do is understand that it's there and it's pervasive.
Mhm.
You know, and I notice myself even like I'll be training myself to like be patient, but then in another area of my life, things come easy. And then it kind of perverts the patience that I'm creating because I'm getting it, you know what I mean? And so it's, I think now more than ever, it's just a balancing act. But I think if you were to say, how do you create patience in someone? What would you do? Well, you would make sure they don't get things very quickly.
Mhm.
You would make them work for it. You would make them have to overcome obstacles to get it. And I think that we can do that in our own lives, and we can surely do it as fathers.
Sure.
But we just have to have the willingness to like push the experience out or work for it, and then hold our sons, daughters accountable to it.
Starting with the awareness, I think that's
Yeah.
spot on. It's funny you mentioned the marshmallow test, and I have a pretty awesome memory. I think I shared it with you previously. And my dad essentially gave me the marshmallow test with finances without knowing about the marshmallow test. But it was one of the, it's a core memory I have. I was like 6 years old, and we go down to the bank, and he's like, all right, Spence, we're going to open up a savings account. And I literally have the deposit book still to this day. It was Bank One before Chase bought them up. And they have my little chicken scratch 6-year-old handwriting. And I deposited like $6 into my first checking savings account. He, of course, was on the account because I was 6 years old or whatever. But $6. And what his rule was for that short period of time was that if you save this money, if you earn this, first I had to go earn the money through chores or through lawn or whatever. But if you go to the bank and you save it, I will match that $6. And so your 6 will turn into 12. And he did that to instill delayed gratification of if you invest and save your money, it will grow versus going and spending that $6 on some fucking Skittles or something, right? And so I have a checkbook since I was 6 to like 12 years old with my chicken scratch growing. $6, $4 deposit, $2 deposit, $12 deposit. Then they got a little bigger, and I worked jobs and started saving, and that was his way to match my money. I saved up enough money to buy my car, which is my 1969 Camaro that I still have today. And it was just an amazing lesson that he kind of shared with me to just display that if you have the discipline of delaying buying those toys and investing, that will grow into a much bigger reward, i.e. my muscle car. You know what I mean? Super
Two
cool.
marshmallows.
2 marshmallows.
Yeah, so I think if we distill down everything that we've said here, the way to do it is to design an experience that requires inputs before outputs. Right? I love that. I mean, I never had anything like that, and
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Fucking cool.
I love that.
And it is a muscle, and I do think it's interesting, like how does that overlap in different areas of your life? Because if you can build the discipline of delayed gratification and inputs without expectation of outputs, longer time horizon, like how does that impact your relationships? How does that impact your business? How does that impact, all areas of your life?
And I'm
right?
trying to think of a practical example. I have 2 stupid ones that come up, right? It's like, let's say that you want to have a extra beer at night. You want to have a slice of cake. You want to have whatever food that you're craving in that moment. It's like, well, go run a mile and then give it to yourself. Stupid example, right?
Yep.
But like you have a desire for something, put an obstacle in front of you, will go through that obstacle and then reward yourself with that, right? Another example, like you want a new car. Okay. Well, create a roadmap that says I have to do A, B, C, and D, and I have to get my income or my savings or my credit card debt or all these things paid off. And once I get to this point, I'm going to reward myself with that thing.
Yep.
And I think that's a way as adults we can tangibly do it. I'm developing an affinity for watches. I like nice watches. Never had it before in my life, but like we bought ourselves one when we hit a big milestone.
Yep.
That's a good example of
Super
something
cool,
that we did.
celebratory. We earned it.
We
Had a
said,
goal.
Spence and I said, okay, once we hit X amount of income in a particular month, we're going to treat ourselves. It was a very big milestone, very big goal. It took us 7 years to hit it, 6 years to hit it. And after 6 years, we hit that goal and we went and we bought ourselves a very nice celebratory gift, right? That's an example of delayed gratification. And now I'm like, damn, I want another one. Right? And so I was
We'll hit another milestone.
I was literally like looking at watches not too long ago and it was expensive. And I was like, you really should not do that right now. And I was like, okay, what goal or milestone, what thing can I put in my path that once I get through that, I can celebrate by doing this? And I think it's one of the ways that we can give ourselves kind of the carrot and the stick.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, this is what I really want. I want to go to Australia. I want to do these things. I want to have this experience. How can I make it even more meaningful or be more intentional with it rather than just like giving myself the instant gratification and going and getting it?
It becomes way more valuable to you because you're tying it to a memory or a goal or a sense of accomplishment, right? It's not like impulse, I'm going to go buy this and feel regret because maybe I spent too much money that I shouldn't have. But
Simultaneously, you're improving yourself too.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting actually talking this out. Like this is what I do in my life, like pretty religiously. With my new car that I bought recently, it was like, okay, once I get to this point in savings and situation and income, like I'll reward myself with a new car.
Yeah.
And I did. And then I celebrated the fuck out of it. And I did not have an
Guilt-free.
ounce
Guilt-free.
of buyer's
Yeah.
remorse because I put in the work required. So when I want the fucking extra cheesecake at night, I just go run a couple extra miles.
I love it. I think it's spot on.
Yeah, I think it takes a little more than a couple extra miles though to work off the calories of a cheesecake.
It's
Dude,
probably true.
cheesecake is dense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think lifting would equal more of the cheesecake then. Yeah, those are all the questions from the
Dude, those are
community
great.
that we have though.
Yeah.
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 On to our Do Better Dude.
Yeah, Do Better.
Shall we?
We love this segment, guys. If you're tuning in and you're not familiar, our Do Better Dude of the Week is really just us digging into the interwebs, finding and highlighting a man who's doing good shit in the world. Because let's be honest, when you scroll through social media or the news, it's probably some negative topic. And we want to highlight men that are doing good in the world. So we find them, talk about them, highlight them, and thank them for what they're doing. So what do we got today, JR?
Yeah, today, okay. September 10th, 2022, at the Bering Mountain in the Washington Cascade Range.
Ooh.
Matt Bishop
This is dramatic.
and Steve Cooper are friends.
Matt and Steve.
They frequently went hiking during the pandemic. And on this date, they went hiking just to get away, get out in nature. This is a story of overcoming odds and
Story of a boy.
being resilient. This is the story of a girl who cried a no.
Drown the whole world.
Back to the story. Anyways, they're hiking, and as they hike, they're summiting. They see some smoke off in the distance, but they don't really think of it. They think it's like from really far away, nothing near them. And as they get to the top of the peak, they see that there's a forest fire going on, like right in front of them.
They hiked to the forest fire.
They hiked to the forest fire. Not quite. Like they're looking down, and there's videos of it on YouTube. I'll
right.
put the link in so you guys can watch it. But they get up to the mountain, they see the fire, and he calls his wife because there's like there's a little pocket of reception. She's like, "Hey, there's a fire. We're gonna turn around and come back home." And so she's like automatically worried already.
Clearly.
Which I thought was like, what a dumb time to call
Why
your
would you
wife.
call your wife?
But so he turns around and the fire is coming around. And as they're going back down the mountain, the way it's shaped is there's kind of like a canyon where there's not a lot of trees growing inside there. So the fire's on one side, and then down at the bottom, there's more fire coming up. So they get pinched between
In the canyon.
yeah, in the canyon. Now the fire's not gonna like consume them because there's no trees around them.
Okay.
So they're just like really buried in smoke right now. They realize that they're in trouble. So he gets on his phone again. They find another pocket of reception and they call search and rescue. And they say, "Hey, we're trapped on the mountain." And as they talk to him, they're like, "We can't send a helicopter. The winds are too dangerous. You guys are on your own."
Oh, damn.
So these friend hikers are stuck in the mountain. There's fire coming on both sides, and they just start using their GPS because they can't see where they're going, and they can't really follow the trail. So they're using their GPS to try and figure out the safest route down. So they start to go down the mountain, and they're trying to stay away from all the trees because at any moment the fire could.
Wind shifts and it
Yeah.
engulfs you.
Yeah, so they're like,
Wow.
okay, we think we can make it. So they start going down, and they go a wrong direction. They come to like a 200-foot cliff, and like it's just them. Like they don't have rope. They're not rock climbers. You're hiking, so they're not going to scale down a 200-foot cliff. So they have to backtrack a little bit, which makes the fire catch up to them faster. And so at that point, they kind of shift down. One of them almost falls off the cliff, and like there's footage of these guys like.
Were they
Now, he
documenting this process?
Yeah,
Shit,
which was really strange, but I imagine they're doing it just for like posterity because in your mind, like if you die, it's
Yeah,
like this is the last
is
thing
it.
I can send people. But they're like trying to be hopeful as they're just like recording themselves talking and coming down. But you see all the smoke around them, like you can't see anything, and their masks are up. They're trying to like breathe, they can't do it. They start making their way down, and they get a phone call, or they find another call because they're in an open area now, and they think maybe a helicopter can come and get them. So he gets on the phone, but 911 emergency, it doesn't go to the right county. It goes to another county, which,
Whoops.
so they lose like 30 minutes of time of just like, sorry, we're not the ones helping you, and like the fire shifted.
911 said sorry.
Yeah, it was
Sorry, wrong county.
It was the
Hey,
wrong dispatch.
Just out of curiosity, what number do you call to get the right 911?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there's only one.
Right? So apparently it gets diverted though if you're like at a different thing and whatever
'Cause
it
they were all
was.
out in the sticks, right?
Yeah.
So
So it got sent to the wrong county, and so they tried to redirect them to connect. Like They didn't just say like, "Hey,
yeah, of course,
you're
of course.
screwed." But it delayed this reaction. They couldn't get the helicopter out there. Like the helicopter like tried to make it, but
Dang.
it was like a half mile away, and they still couldn't do it. So they're still sitting there, surrounded by smoke on the mountain. And now they're like kind of in the trees, so like they could be consumed.
Toast.
Yeah, toast,
burnt toast.
for lack of a better term. Obviously they made it, but because we're talking about it. But as the flames are coming around, they still work their way down the mountain, and just through this like periodic and just forcing yourself to do these really difficult things. They're climbing down rock slides. You go hiking a lot.
Yeah.
How difficult is 1,400 feet in 3/4 miles? Like,
1,400 foot elevation.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
How high is
Depending on the
Camelback?
texture. Camelback's like 1,100 feet and 1.25 miles. So
Yeah.
a little steeper than that.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit steeper.
Yeah,
So it's probably pretty good grade.
yeah.
Probably a little
That's what they're
slippery.
climbing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what they climbed up, and this is what they're climbing down right now. Climbing down is like, in my opinion, like that's almost scarier because
Yeah.
one trip and then like you're going pretty far. But anyways, they found some more cliffs and stuff, and they had to like climb down some trees, shimmy down, and they ended up making it back to the parking lot with their car.
What?
They
The
were the-
same parking lot?
Same parking lot. They found their way back using GPS and just kind of knowing the trails and everything. And they got back to their car. They were the only car in the parking lot. They let
They
everyone.
evacuated everyone else?
Yeah, they let everyone else know that like we made it, and it was 12 hours that they were gone.
12 hours.
So they left. They got there about 7 a.m, and I looked at the distance from like the county where his wife was at, where they said, and it's about like an hour drive. So they left at 6. They got home at 6. So about 12 hours altogether of just the like almost dying,
Damn.
but they stuck to it. In that situation, what do? Do you sit it out, hope
Yeah.
for the best? Do you record your last message to your family and just wait there to die, or do you?
They
move
took
forward?
action and it figured it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though that they weren't sure about what was going to happen, they're like, this is the only thing we can do. Instead of sitting and waiting for help,
Yeah.
they went out and they saved themselves,
Yeah. That's a wild
giving
story.
everyone else a heart attack in the meantime. But like,
Did you say they had masks? Was this during COVID?
Yeah, so it was during
they happen
COVID.
to have
They didn't
masks?
have masks. They just took their
Okay.
shirts
I was
and
gonna say, okay.
tried to like,
Yeah, because the
cover it
smoke,
up.
I mean, the inhalation of the smoke could.
yeah.
Like,
When you
totally
look at the
mess
videos,
you
you
up.
can see that their eyes are like pretty red too. Like there's so much irritant in
Oh,
the air.
God.
And already like being that high with an elevation, like, how easy is it to breathe up
Yeah,
there? It's
plus all the
probably
smoke.
even worse.
Well, shout out these guys for being badasses. They probably both had beards, I would assume, because they survived and navigated their way down.
Now they grow beards. Like, I'm a man.
Nah, I mean, it's super cool. Wild story. Good on them for just problem solving and figuring it out. Because in that moment, it's like, well, what the fuck do you do? Do you wait it out? Do you sit on this? You know what I mean? Like, no, you take action and
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
put your life in your own hands and figure it out.
In so many ways, it's like a one-day metaphor for all of life. Like the shit's gonna hit you. There's gonna be fear and doubt, and you're not sure if you're gonna make it, and you don't know what road you're gonna go down. And there's
Try over here. No, fuck, that's a cliff.
Yeah.
Okay, pivot. Try over here. All right.
yeah, it's like, but if you just keep going, if you don't let it overwhelm you or stress
Yeah.
you out, you just keep moving forward little by little, not knowing where you're gonna go, if it's the right decision or the wrong one. Inevitably, you make it off the mountain.
Yeah.
Really, really cool story.
Yeah, I love that.
And they were generally going in the right direction because there's only one way off the mountain, and that's down.
Yeah.
So how many different down ways
Yeah.
can you find? As
That's super cool.
long as you're going this way, I think you're going to make it.
Right.
Pushing through.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's our Do Better Dude. Good job, Matt Bishop and Steve Cooper.
Matt and Steve.
Matt and Steve.
Couple of good old
Salute.
boys.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you have questions that you want to submit, be sure to send them to ask@livebearded.com. That's an email. Or you can put your questions in the comments below. We'll accept that as well.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. I think the greatest gift that you can give us is the gift of your attention and your time. And as we said in the beginning, we love doing this show just to hang out with you guys, answer your questions, chop it up, and talk about the crazy experience of being a man today. If you have any questions, like JR said, send them to us. But as always,
Live bearded.
Mic drop.